Hey, what's going on, everybody? Martavius here once again,
Jeremy here.
and welcome to another jam session. So, if this is your first time joining us in these jam sessions, then welcome. Then that's your first time. Welcome back to a jam session with Jeremy and I. We've been doing these for over a decade, like unofficially,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's just like we would have these talks in our room. We were college roommates, so in our dorm, we would just have these talks about life, about growth, about mindset, about spirituality, about love, relationships, everything like that we could talk about, right? And we actually did have jam sessions. So for those of you who aren't as musically inclined or just don't know, jam sessions, you basically have people in a group in a room. One person like Jeremy, he played bass guitar. I played violin or like acoustic guitar. Somebody else like Tim would play like drums. Somebody else would probably sing. Somebody else would probably play anything, right? But we would just have no plan, no idea of what's going to happen, but we just have our gifts and our skills, and we'll just bring those to the table and just have a jam session. So one person would probably play one note, like a G, and then somebody else like, hey, that reminds me of this melody. I can match with that. And somebody else would come in and just boom, we had a song. So that's the birth of the jam session, right? But these are just more like high level, higher functioning, being more productive, being more mindful of the direction of our lives, because life isn't just haphazard, right? We just don't do things just randomly, right? We have to have some type of structure, some type of like strategy behind what we're doing. So that's what we want to do here, is just make the most of your time who are watching this with us, but also just share the experiences and also the mistakes that we've made, hopefully that can help you to save some time and just glean a little bit more wisdom and insight into your lives. All right. Anything you want to add to that, Jeremy?
No, I did. I think you hit the nail on the coffin there. It's kind of uh how we got this thing going. It's friendship, brotherhood, relationship, and we just kind of want to spread the things that we've been able to share amongst each other with the masses, and hoping somebody can benefit for something that we share throughout these various jam sessions together.
Oh yeah. Awesome. So today's topic, we're going to talk through going through it or growing through it. So just that split divide, what kind of comes to mind for you, Jeremy? Going through it or growing through it?
Man, perspective. I think perspective is a key part, just of that in general, because you can, you know, kind of feel like you go through it, and from like a lens of woe is me, or from a lens of, man, this is hard. Like, why did I sign up for this? Why did I make these decisions? Why did I want to go through with this? But, kind of at the end of all of that, you know, tribulations, you seem to triumph, and you kind of see what changed from point A to point B that you're at now. Like, you kind of recognize where you started at versus what you have now, and what skills or knowledge or relationships you gain from that journey. So yeah, perspective is key, because it's hard to get through it, and your perspective can make it harder, or I'm not even gonna say easy, because nothing about it is easy, but more bearable to say.
Yeah, no, I get that, especially with just how we met, school. It's like I feel like a lot of people who are learning a new skill, trying to develop, skills that they already probably have, but just like sharpen those a little bit more with either undergraduate or graduate, studies. It's just like you do feel like I'm going through it right now, y'all. I'm struggling right now, y'all. But it's like in that struggle, I kind of think about weightlifting because that's something like we did together,
Hmm.
especially like you play football, right, in high school, but it's just like lifting weights. I remember like our roommates, we would get together. So it'd be like me, you, Caleb, I think Aaron. We all like went to the gym one day, or it's like we would work out in like in the room sometime. But it's just like when we're lifting weights, or it's like when you're around that group of people, especially me, because I'm like, these are some big dudes. Like they gotta like, push that weight. But me, I wasn't like a big weight lifter, but I was like, all right, let me just do it anyway. Everybody else is doing it. Let me just do it. But it's just like when you're lifting that weight, it's just like it can be intense. It can be a struggle. It can be like, why am I doing this? Like, what am I putting myself through? But and it feels like I'm just struggling through this thing. I feel stupid. I feel dumb. I feel like I'm weak. I feel like I'm less than. I feel like I'm not enough. All those thoughts that can come into our minds when we're faced with some challenge and we have to like lift some heavy weight, right? That can be like a relationship, like the start of a
Mhm.
relationship. Like it can seem like a heavy weight. Like this is a new person. They have different upbringing. They have different expectations than me. This is a new venture. I could gain some money. I could lose some money. I'm still trying to figure this thing out. This is a new class or course. I don't know anything about this, or I had to switch majors. I don't know anything about this,
Mhm.
or I know some, it's like all these things that can come into mind, but it's like in that going through it, it's like we're actually growing. We're actually becoming a different person. We're actually developing new skills, seeing things in a new way, right? And we have to meet people. That I feel like that's a huge thing. It's like we have to meet
Yeah.
people, of course, to connect with other people who are more skilled than us, right? In a particular area. And that can also seem like sometimes we need a spotter, right? And it's just like
Right.
it's no shame in having a spotter just to help you like lift a heavy weight that you've never lifted before.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it definitely kind of reminds me a bit of just, the journey itself. Like life is a journey, it's not really a destination.
Yeah.
Though you have these goals or these milestones in mind, it's not necessarily all about you reaching the goal or reaching the milestone. It's about the journey that you took to get there. That reminds me of like, I know both of us are anime watchers, so that reminds me a lot of like Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Just all of it, all those episodes.
Mhm.
It kind of feels mundane to a certain extent, but then you just kind of to look back at the journey that those like characters went through from the start of Dragon Ball to the end of Dragon Ball Z is like crazy and triumphant with the amount of time that went by there. Even from the intricate, character developments from all of the major characters to the minor characters. But that's just the same way that life is. Our development and our growth is dependent on the journey of life and not necessarily just the outcome of it. And
Mhm.
that's where we tend to grow the most. If you're kind of into plants, like I am, a plant before a plant grows, it shows sign of stress, like it loses leaves, it turn yellowish brown. But that sign of stress is just like an early indication of a large growth or a large, growth spurt to say the least. Even with kids, you have a son, I have two kids as well. Like
Mhm.
right before they had hit a huge growth spurt, like they kind of, experience aches and pains, minor colds, or um, increased irritability, increased sleepiness, or whatever those things. So, like, that's all a part of the journey. And just kind of those small indications or milestones throughout the journey, but it's not necessarily just about the finished product, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of things you said, where I was like, yeah, that's really good. Like, of course, the Dragon Ball Z reference is like,
Yeah.
we're all like, but I just think about too, like when we're quote unquote going through it, but when we're actually growing through it, just like some of the things we have to give up, like some of the
Mm.
things that we have to turn away from, like Dragon Ball, for example, it's like Goku had a tail at one point, but it's just like, because
Yeah.
that's part of like him being a Saiyan. It's like you come equipped with a tail, like no questions asked. That's just what you do. And when you get the right conditions in place, it's like boom, you turn into your King Kong jam. But it's just like at one point, it's like he had to get rid of that tail. It's like, and I'm not sure if he wanted to or not. I forgot, but I just know like it was like removed from him, and it's just like because it was removed, it didn't take away from his power. It actually added to it, because he
Mhm.
had other people who still had their tail, like Vegeta and Nappa, when they came into his hometown and just like, causing destruction and mayhem. But it's just like if you're an outsider looking in, it's like, oh, they have a tail, so they're the real deal. He
Yeah.
doesn't. So I don't know, he may struggle, but yet it's like Vegeta's like, oh, how are you so strong? How do you get so strong? And it's like he had all these things. And obviously, like he got his tail cut off by, a little coward, but still he got his tail cut off. But it's
Yajirobe.
like right. And it's like he realized I'm not sure if it was at that point or just later on that he didn't need this thing that he thought he had to hold on to for so long. And sometimes for us, that's like doubt, that's limiting beliefs, that's like
Mhm.
this story that we heard some time ago. Like if you don't have this, you're not gonna get there, or people who do this, they always do this thing. And it's like, is that really true, or is that just true for you? Because
Yeah.
that, and like you said, just like the growing pains of like, child development, just human development as we're growing, just seeing that with him. And it's interesting how like sometimes you can put him down to bed, wake up and it's like he's like that much longer. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, like you got big. That's why you were like crying, or that's why you were like so ready to go to sleep. Cause again, it's just like that something's triggering inside to say, like, you need to change, you need to grow, you need to adapt or die, or you can't revert it, pretty much it's like you gotta do it. So it's just, yeah, all those examples are super great.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely like an opportunity cost to everything. Like you gotta something you're losing out on something no matter what decision you make in life. Like you're missing out on something. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of um get in a bind within themselves because they have like this, FOMO, this fear of missing out. But you're gonna always miss out. But the good part about it is that you get to choose what you miss out on, and that ultimately choose what you get to be a part of in
Yeah.
the near future and the far future, as well. I know my dad come from a family of people who play like checkers a lot. Like my grandfather was like checker champion in like the region or whatever. So like we always played checkers, and my dad always said this saying like you got to lose some blood to gain some blood. So when you playing like any type of board game, you got to lose some pieces in order for you to gain the pieces to become the winner. Checkers, you want to get rid of all the other pieces from the opposing team, but I mean, in order to do that, you have to lose a large amount of pieces just to get near all of their pieces, and that's just the nature of it.
Yeah.
Any card game, you got to lose some cards in order to become the winner. Even
Hmm.
if you say something like chess, like you still have to sacrifice some of your pawns in order to get the other opponent's queen or king or
Yeah.
whatever it is for that. So, you're always gonna lose out on something, but it's the things that you're losing out on, you know, worth the thing that you're going to gain in the future. And then also take it to kind of like a financial. You want you're going to lose something, but you want to be able to lose the smallest amount possible in order to make the largest gain
Hmm.
possible. That's like an investor thing. Like I want to risk the lowest amount of money
Hmm.
so that I could get the highest amount of money I could possibly get.
Yeah.
And that's just what traders live and die by.
Hmm. Just that risk management and just understanding the return on investment and just like making sure
Right, right.
it's worth it. Yeah. And it's just like the activities that's a good point. Just the activities that we're involved in, just making sure that they lead us towards that ultimate growth, that we have for
Mhm,
ourselves and that ultimate vision of ourselves. I know we grew up not grew up. It's just like in our college years, I just say this like we actually was growing up then, but like when we watched The Secret, and just like
mhm,
all these different speakers and different perspectives of like this is what people who attain like their life's purpose and they have so much clarity and so much drive and so much passion and so much intention behind this whole thing. It's like they just visualize things and I feel like a lot of that video or that docu series or whatever you want to call it, it was a lot of visualization and just like getting in your
mhm,
head to like really see it before you see it and not just say that like, oh, I want wealth and I want prosperity and I want a great relationship, but it's like you're actually visualizing like what does that look like for you, and based on that mental image that you're painting for yourself, where do you feel that in your body, and it's like really getting attuned to and more aware, just like you're just more
mhm,
self-aware of these are the little pulls and levers and knobs and buttons that I can push and pull and play with to actually make progress. And again, when we're feeling like we're going through something, like we're going through a struggle, it's like, is that picture clear? Like, is
mhm,
the picture as clear as we want it to be? Because I feel like just from personal experience, if our picture is fuzzy, if we're unsure, if we haven't like meditated or wrote down things or talked to people or received counsel or all these things that really help us to get a clear idea and a I don't know, I just think like Batman like vantage point or
yeah.
Spider-Man like vantage point of like a bird's eye view of the whole situation, then we can like feed into these feelings of like I'm losing out or the
Mhm.
FOMO or I need my tail or else I'll get cut down or whatever. It's metaphorically speaking, y'all.
Right, right, right.
Like, I'm about like, Well, you got a tail? Show me your tail. Like, no,
It's
I'm
a
talking about
joke. It's
Dragon
a
Ball.
joke.
Right. But just like if we don't have those that vision, and if we don't have
Mhm.
that visualization practice even, it's gonna be that much more easy to be distracted, and fall into the things that seem good because of, again, FOMO, and it's like people are talking about it when it's like it's not really aligning. So it's going to take you further down that path of distraction and unproductive behaviors, as
Mhm.
opposed to things that actually help you to develop your life and elevate your life experience, which is the goal. Or at least like
Right.
that's what it's
Yeah.
supposed to be
Yeah.
us. It's like that's the goal,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
aim, right? Just to be in alignment with who we see ourselves becoming, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. That's definitely the goal, and I feel like you have. I guess the concept is going through it or grow through it, but then the action step is kind of what's been underneath what we've been talking about. That you have to have a plan. Like you
Mhm,
have to have some sort of a roadmap, and that's not necessarily have every single counter to every possibility of things that come into play, but you
mhm,
need to have a general idea of the things that you're willing to come to play, of the risks that you're willing to take, of some of the losses that you're willing to take as well, because you got to recognize what type of loss is too much of a loss
mhm,
for you in this. Like, what risk is too big of a risk? What loss is too big of a loss for you? And kind of like what you was talking about with the visualization, like you got to, conceptualize what your biggest win is. Like,
mhm,
what type of win are you ready for? What
mhm,
kind of win can you handle? We see it all the times where, people win the lottery, but they go broke
mhm,
shortly after that. You know, they weren't prepared visually or conceptually or had a plan mapped out for utilizing this particular influx of money, and just kind of assumed that it will work itself out. But that's not how life happens. Like life happens, whether or not, but it happens. It'll be more beneficial for you to have some type of plan in place, and that plan allows you to have a goal, and that goal allows you to stay near that goal. And when you fall away from accomplishing that goal, then you kind of have a recalibration moment, because when you set those goals and you set those plans, you have those milestones in place to see where you are. You have those risk factors in place. You have those loss factors in place as well, because sometimes your plan just wasn't the most effective plan. It
yeah.
may have been the most effective plan that you could come up at that point in time, but as time progresses, hopefully you're gaining more skills, gaining more knowledge, getting more familiarity with the things that you want, get more familiarity with yourself and how you think, and how you communicate, and surround yourself with people that can help you increase those things. Maybe your plan can be adjusted, and you should have those check-ins as well to kind of recalibrate and reassess your things, that you have lined up, or even reassess if that's what you really want. Like both of us, we changed our majors in college. Like we thought we wanted one thing, but we had to recalibrate and
Yeah.
change it and align our roadmap to that particular thing. So you have to be willing and able to make the plan, but then not being afraid to readjust the plan if needed. And a lot of times it's gonna be needed to readjust just because of your internal growth.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a good point too. Just because sometimes it feels like when we make plans or set plans, it's like this is written in stone, it cannot change. Get away from me, get away from me. Somebody tries to come
Yeah.
in, alter that. Like I remember feeling that in myself. Like recently, like I was getting a post together, and I was like, all right, let me put this post together, map everything out. All right, cool. And I showed my wife because she's like checks my stuff, I check her stuff. And I was like, how does it sound? Just to bounce ideas. And she was like, oh no, sorry to interrupt, don't say that. And I was like, it was beautiful. What do you mean don't say that? But it's just like listening. And of course, like it took a long time, for us in our marriage to get to this point of like, okay, like listen to your wife, like just listen.
Mhm.
You don't have to like agree with everything but just listen, hear her out, see what she has to say. And, it's like she said what she said. And it's like she gave some other points, like just little critiques here and there. And I was like, all right, cool. And there was even one I was like, I think I'm gonna re-record this audio for this thing. And she was like, sounds fine to me. Post it. Like, don't do that. Like, don't waste more time. Like,
Yeah.
recording this thing. Like, it sounds good as it is. Post it. And I was like, all right, and I just did it. So it's just like sometimes it does feel like a battle, like an internal battle sometimes,
Hmm.
of like, this seems right. I thought through this, like this is good, but there's this saying or this proverb that I heard too, just about like seeking counsel. And it's okay to seek counsel just to get
Right.
different perspectives, because like you were in like math and science, like
Hmm.
that field. So but me, it's like I was in communication, but it's just like I'm pretty sure there's at some point in time you learned something, or you had a concept that you talked about probably in a presentation or something. I'm like, I could use that like in my field of study. And it's not wrong that I thought this way. It's just like you said, that's just like where I am right now, based on the skills, based on the exposure that I currently have. But it's like once we operate in the plan and we see that stuff isn't working, it's like, okay, there's something I don't know. And then you
Yeah.
start you clearly find those people who know what you don't know. But I feel like what you said is pretty key. It's just writing down the plan just to begin with, just see like what's on your mind, what are you thinking, what do you see? And then how does that play out? And I'm big on data points. It's just like just do the thing. Because I remember a couple of years back, about probably like 2018, 19, around that time, like I started this
Mhm.
online mindset program. And I was like, I'm just trying this thing out. I see what I want to do as far as like the flow and the systems and the automations and how things can connect and how I deliver messages to people and all that stuff. But it's just like I still had no idea what it looked like for me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just need somebody to do this. So actually, Tim, he actually went through it, and it was like another student that I worked with. It was like just those two people. But it's like
Mhm.
from those two, I was able to get like real live feedback, and like this is how it feels for them. Or when I send this message in this way, this is how they respond to it. And if I send it in this way, they don't respond. So I have to send a second message to make sure that they actually get it. And they're like, oh, my bad. And it's like the whole trail completes itself. So it's like through that process, I was able to just get data points like, this doesn't work, don't do that. This works, keep doing that. This works, double down on that. This is better than these two. Scratch that, put this here. But it's just like still keeping that framework, but not just being so rigid, with that framework.
Right, right. Yeah, for sure. And I think like, a piece you kind of touched on and the part I want us to go into is like having, going through it and growing through it. And we may have talked about it a little bit one of our previous sessions,
Mhm.
but like not doing it alone as well. Like you
Yeah.
can't do it alone because
Hmm.
you don't like you can't grow with just you. Like you need something else. Like I go back to the plant thing. Like a plant doesn't become a plant just by having the seed alone. Like it has to have the dirt. The dirt has to be good organic dirt. It has to have microbes, has to have insects and worms. It has to have sunlight, has to have water, good water, not just any water, but it also can't have too much water.
Right.
It also can't have too much sun. It can't have too much heat. Can't have too much coldness as well. So like it's an equation and a formula to that. And it's an equation and formula to you as well. And you're not the only part of that equation or formula. And that person could be a friend, an accountability person. It could be a romantic partner. It could be a relative of some sort. Like it could be a coworker. Like, but you can't do it alone. And I guess I would want to know kind of your thoughts on how important it is to have somebody to help you grow through it and or go through it through like various stages of life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like going back to the seeking counsel, like having how it was described to me, for one of my mentors. His name is Rennie, and he does speaking and he does like coaching and writing and all this stuff. And he came from football, played with UGA. And one of the things he said was like, what is your personal board of advisors? Like, if you could
Mhm.
think of anybody who would be on your personal board, like this person handles my finance, or we talk finances, this person talks marketing strategy with me, this person talks business development or business acumen, just understanding how to talk business terms and stuff like that. This person like helps me grow spiritually, person helps me grow in my relationships, this person helps me with my own mindset. It's like he was like, who are your board of advisors? He was like, dead, alive, doesn't matter, you know them, you don't know them, just like put people in that place. And I saw it again when we read It's like a book club we read, Think and Grow Rich, and he was talking about that too, like imagining, kind of abortive advisors in a sense. I think he framed it differently, but it's still the same concept. But yeah, I agree with that. Like again, when I did the whole mindset training program and stuff, it was just me doing it, and it's like it was before COVID, so it was just like it was still like I was still building that thing up, because it's like I feel like I needed some online something, because like doing stuff in person, that's kind of easy for me. It's like I can talk with people, I can coach people, I can like help people see things from a different way, do whiteboard stuff, workshops, all that stuff, and it's great. But it's like I saw the need, especially after COVID happened. It's like I really saw that need because like my last thing, kind of memory before that whole thing went down is like I was working in schools, with Cobb County School District, and then I was doing a keynote for GILC, so it's like Georgia
Mm.
International Leadership Conference, and it's like after that, it's like bam, it's like oh that switch. I was like, man, this online stuff. It's like if I had other people who like worked on emails and worked on automations or worked on these things, and they just like knew what they were doing, I could have got there so much faster.
Yep.
But it's just like doing it by yourself. You can. They say that whole thing is like doing it by yourself. You go fast, but doing it with a group, you go far. And I feel like I couldn't get as far. I got fast results and data points and things I can do really quickly, but there's still a level of stress that comes with that because it's like I
Yep.
had to learn new skills. I had to like learn something that I wasn't well versed in, but it's like, all right, this is the next step of this. So let me Google how this works. Let me watch videos on how this works, as opposed to if somebody was already gifted and talented and specialized in that thing. And I work with them and I just say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. What do you think? I already got it. I know what to do with that. Give it to me. Go home. It was like, all right, cool. Yes. Thank you. But it's just that even when I started coaching, like personal training coaching and, got certified and all that stuff. And I feel like even in the group setting with the certification, it was still like a gap. Like they teach you general stuff like this is how to foam roll. This is you need to be on time for classes. This is how you build rapport. Like very basic level, just relationship building stuff, which I kind of already got from my major in communication and working with people like you and Anderson and that whole group of AMI and ASA and all that stuff. So I got a lot of exposure on how to work and how to talk to people, but I still felt like there was a gap missing. But that gap
Yeah.
came into play when I started working with other coaches who've been doing this for years. And so they would see things that they didn't talk about in the certification class, and it was like an 8 hour certification class on that day. But it's like in those 8 hours, of course, they can't cover everything, but it's just like the soft skills that you need, like for sales or to help people see and recognize those small wins within themselves so they can keep that momentum going. It's like that I learned from other coaches who have been on the floors, who've been working with other people for years, and they've just seen patterns and they were able to just like consolidate those patterns. Like, okay, if you do this thing, you'll be successful here. It's like, all right, let me mirror their behavior. Let me just like really observe why people say, like, I love this coach. They're the best coach ever. It's like, well, how can I be like that best coach for somebody?
Mhm.
So I just started to take those. But yeah, I just feel like if you're going through anything, going through it alone is hard. Like it is stressful. It's not worth it, honestly. It's like it can't seem like, yeah, I'm gonna try to figure this thing out. And there are cases to where you just need to figure some things out by yourself, especially if you're
Mhm.
learning something new and you're developing a skill. Like, yeah, take your time to like really understand it. But again, there are some learners who work best in groups. And I feel like that's how a lot of top learners and top earners, they work in groups. It's like, I'm going to get with this person who's only going to focus on this one thing. I'm going to focus
Yeah.
on this one thing. It's like specialization. I'm seeing is like the biggest driver to growth, in that group setting, because if you're the one person who does anything, it kind of reminds me of the, jack of all trades, master of none. It's like
Yeah.
just master one thing. Like that's it. It's like it doesn't have to be super complicated. Just master one thing and then let everybody else master their thing and just like stay out of their way, and just like
Yeah.
let them do what they do best. So yeah, that I hope that answers your question. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of
for sure.
yeah, that's just my take on that based on again just things I've done in my life. So yeah, I should have done a little bit better, but hey, we're here now. We learn, we grow, and we develop, and but I feel like for sure getting with a group, and that he even talks about that. Just a quick aside, just the book Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill, again, he just like studied the most successful minds in the world at the time. Like, what are they doing? You know, if it's like steel industry, if it's like cars, automotive, oil, whatever it is, like, how do they get this level of success? And it's time and time and time and time and time and time and time again. They had a group of people, right? That he calls it the
Yeah.
mastermind, you know, principle or principle of the mastermind alliance. But you have this group who y'all see this aim, you see this goal. It's like, I want to go here. This is the intention. Like we said, the framework, like what's the at least the general plan that we're trying to
Yeah.
do. And then from there, it's like you start to like other people are connected to people that you're not connected to, you know? Like again, if it wasn't for you, I would have met Brad, who's like, this is an awesome guitar player. And it's like, I've
Oh.
never seen anybody play guitar like this before, you know, but it's like I wasn't exposed to that level of skill unless I
Mhm.
met you, unless I went to Kennesaw, unless you know, it's like all these
Right.
things
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
together, but it's just like you just need people. And it's just like we really just need people. And I feel like the pandemic kind of reminded us of that, like being in our own little silos and kind of you don't see people's faces, you're not seeing people smiling anymore, you're not really connecting with people as much. But it's just like we just need people to just thrive, not only just survive, because yeah, we need somebody to, you know, work at the grocery store to make sure things are stocked. We need somebody to like make sure that we're getting paid or make sure somebody's doing XYZ things. But it's just like we just need people to just really thrive and just do what we are put on this earth to do at the most effective level ever.
Mm,
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. We need each other.
Hmm. Yeah. So, um, yeah, I just feel like that's the going through it and going through it, or going through it or growing through it. Either way, you know, it's just I feel like what we got from this conversation is just, and especially you, hopefully watching, just you just need people. Like just get around a group of people, especially those who are going in the direction that you want to go. People who can help you visualize and just see the bigger picture. Even if your plans are just at the start, or even if your skill sets are like just starting, you know, it's like that's okay. Like everybody starts from ground zero. Like everybody
Mhm.
comes into this world not knowing how to speak any language, not know how to do anything for themselves, right? But through connecting with other people, through you know, actually having an interest in growing and developing our skill set, so we can contribute that to another person's growth and their goals attainment. That's where we win, you know, and it's not just we want to win for ourselves, but we also want to win so other people can win too, because it is just a back and forth. It's like if I win, you win, and if you win, I win. So we all win. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's definitely about, you gotta go through it or grow through it. But I think one of the underlying key aspects and big takeaways that we like for the audience to come out is just, communication. Communicate is key. Making out the goal is communicating to yourself and reminding yourself about it. It's not just, reminding your current self, but it's mainly communicating with your future self. What is it you want to accomplish, and are these is this plan and goal outlined in a way that a future version of me could understand, recognize, and adjust accordingly. And then you get the individuals around you or the people around you to help, strengthen that communication with yourself, with others. A lot of times, an idea sounds great in our head, but when we say it out loud, we realize that there's some changes that need to be made. So, being able to communicate to the highest degree
Mhm.
will allow you to be able to produce these things that we're talking about, these plans, these milestones, having these people in your corner at the same time while it's accomplishing these things will, ultimately help you reach your goal and help you grow through it and not so much go through it. So
Exactly. Love it. Love it. Nice. That's a
thank
good place
you.
to stop here. I think everybody. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, just again leave a comment down below. Just saying like, oh, this was so awesome. I love you guys. Keep doing these things. Or if there's like a specific point, you know, that you feel like, hey, I want to talk more about this, or can we go deeper into this? I'm struggling here. Just let us know in the comments below, and we can address those as soon as we can and make another video about that specific thing. So again, Martavius, checking out.
Jeremy, peace.
All right. Have a great one, y'all.